Hey everyone, welcome to Discount Bin. Today we're doing another one-off episode. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence. I am Daniel. I'm here with Rick,
Hi.
Leonard,
Hi.
and Lexi.
Hello.
We talk originally here about a little brief history of AI. Like pretty much everything that involves computers, AI's origins can be traced back to Alan Turing in 1936. If you want to learn more, pretty much any computer science intro class, you'll hear all about Alan Turing. The term artificial intelligence was first used at a workshop in 1956 at Dartmouth College. They identified some key problems, such as making computers understand language, learn, and improve themselves. They had suggested, in all seriousness, that significant advances on these problems might be made by 10 scientists working together for 2 months. So there's a story from these days before they realized how difficult it was going to be about a professor who had delegated to one of his grad students to solve the problem of computer vision. And I think that's a good example of how simple they thought it was going to be, or how much they would accomplish in a short amount of time. So you can imagine how that went in the 1950s. But by the mid-60s, the Department of Defense was funding AI research. They made good progress in the first 10 years. The experts believed they would be able to create artificial intelligence within a generation. And it's a great example of the planning fallacy. By the mid-70s, there weren't very many advancements, so the funding stopped, and pretty much nothing happened for about 15 years throughout the 80s. And in the 90s, still the best decade, they brought back some interest with the introduction of machine learning, and this resulted in the greatest advancement yet, Clippy. Clippy is the addition on Microsoft Office Suite, released in 1996. I'm very excited for Microsoft to have even more advanced Clippy in the future. Anyway, more recently, OpenAI released ChatGPT, which started a firestorm of interest in AI, and Google released DeepMind. Those are the two leading AI labs, but there are plenty of others. I think this firestorm of AI and interest in AI is very responsible for pulling the software engineer job market out of a dive it was in. And that being said, today we're going to be taking a look at the morality and the possible threat of building AI. So before we jump in, I thought we'd cover our credentials. None of us are experts in AI, but we're all in the computer science world. Leonard's an Android developer, Lexi's a front-end developer, Rick's a systems engineer, and I'm a cloud engineer. So with all things science, we definitely recommend listening to experts in their field rather than people like us who are semi-knowledgeable but very opinionated. All right, we're going to hop right in. I've got a bunch of questions for you guys, and I've targeted specific questions at each of you for maximum fear-mongering. So, Leonard, what do you think AI means for society and the job market, specifically the tech job market?
Oh, such a loaded question.
Not unintentionally.
It feels like there are so many ways that this could go wrong, right? It's going to replace a lot of jobs in the society. It's going to create a lot of wealth inequality, possibly. Like, if you think about it today, the AI program or whatever is being created, it's not publicly owned, right? They're all owned by private companies. Who knows what happens when they release those capability? Let's say a certain job gets replaced. Let's say truck drivers. It's one of those first jobs I think will be replaced really quickly. Truck drivers are paid a lot of money. They drive very long distances. Imagine if that one job got replaced by AI. They are now capable of self-driving trucks across the country at lower risk and higher efficiency. Now you just lost one job market there, one high-paying job there. Now, who gains from that? Is it us, or is it just the corporations that own that program, or the corporations that save their costs on the trucks? Like, the money doesn't trickle down. It feels like with the way our corporate ownership works right now, that wealth disparity is just going to keep getting greater. I'm just using that as one example. Like, AI doesn't feel like it's designed to serve humanity right now. It's designed to serve whoever has control over it. So that's probably like a really broad answer, but it's going to be really chaotic. I think it's going to mess up social hierarchy even more. For the tech sector, it's really hard to say. Like I still think they need software engineers to still rapidly improve the AI, but I think those jobs will be replaced last, but they will be replaced eventually. I don't know. It's really hard to speak on the tech side. I'm sure everyone has different thoughts on this.
I kind of think the opposite. I think it's going to be one of the earlier things to be more easily replaced because now any schmo can throw on Visual Studio with Copilot enabled and have AI assist like, hey, I want to make this type of program. You say it in simple words. I want to be able to do this. And now things like ChatGPT and Copilot can just be like, here's how you do it in this. Well, no, I want to do that actually in Java. Then it spits it out in that. No, well, I want to add this into it. And like being able to just to tell it what you want starts making it so it's becoming, you're still going to want experts in the field. And today it's not replacing anybody, right? But it is making it extremely more accessible.
I do think that lower level tech jobs, programming jobs, will be replaced. Like if you have ChatGPT write really simple programs, they do a perfect job of it. If let's say I wanted to write something in iOS or Swift today, it would take me a lot longer because I'm not proficient with the language. But if I know exactly how to describe the program I want, I can get ChatGPT to write it. But then I'm thinking about bigger projects like the software I'm working on at my workplace. I don't know how to describe that. I don't know if it's possible for a program of that scale to be programmable by ChatGPT. Like smaller ones, yes, I think they can replace first year, second year programmers for all the very simple tasks. But I don't know if they can replace experience yet.
So I got one point to that. And it's not related to software development in particular, but it's a program that Microsoft is rolling out called Copilot in your Azure environment, and it's largely used for security. But what it is it's like a containerized AI that takes in public updates, but it lives in your environment, sees everything in your environment, and it gives you the best practices for how you have things set up to help you with closing out vulnerabilities. Setting up best practice for whatever you end up using in your Azure environment. I think that the concept of this machine learning tied in with public updates and the containerized access of the AI to your environments is exactly kind of the route that would be going to be able to allow it to create much more sophisticated software on its own.
It will learn faster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like I said, it's not a today thing, but it's a not far off future where like anything that basically boils down to a if then else kind of situation, it's going to be able to be just done and quickly, very quickly.
Yeah, it's gonna be a race. Like I think right now, if AI is able to make you do a better job at anything you do, then it's an incentive to use AI, right? But also realize that to use it more, we're improving it faster. It feels like you need to get into this arms race now to squeeze the little bit of benefit you can before it's too late. And if you don't, you fall behind your competitors. But we're all collectively improving AI as a whole.
So on that topic, I think this leads quite well into the next question. Lexi, if AI started replacing millions of jobs, what do you think happens to income inequality?
Yeah, like Leonard said at first, I think it's gonna like cause more derision between our classes. Like it's already been the worst that it's ever been since the early 1900s, and I think a responsible government, which I'm not sure I can say that we have that right now, would probably start to set up some regulations and maybe some high taxes on these companies that use AI to replace US citizens, and then use those taxes for either job retraining or to start some universal basic income programs. There has been little pockets of that trialing throughout the United States, and they have been pretty successful, but it just is going to mean higher taxes. And I think those companies should be paying those higher taxes because they are the ones benefiting the most from the not having to pay workers. and also the ones that are choosing not to employ U.S. citizens while being a U.S. company.
Are they not U.S. citizens? I mean, they're born in the U.S. Some of them.
They're not born at all. They're created.
Oh,
But
are we going into AI rights now?
Babies are created.
AI is not sentient. There's no way for an AI to become a citizen. We have corporations that are basically citizens, but as of right now, AIs do not.
That's a lot of hate talk I'm hearing out of Lexi right now.
So what if a job is replaced by a robot and the robot says made in China? Is that an American citizen or is that a...
No, made in, no. I do like AI, and I do envision a beautiful Star Trek type utopia in the future where everyone is on universal basic income, like money isn't really a thing. We have AI doing everything for us. Long, happy, healthy lives.
Yeah, and I think kind of to jump off what Leonard was saying earlier, I do think, transportation and farming are like the two most crucial things that we need, and because everybody needs food and it needs to get delivered throughout the wide, vast continental U.S. And so if those two things can be automated, then, everybody can have their basic necessity, or, that one very important basic necessity taken care of.
Yeah, and one thing too that I know from my farmer friends in North Dakota is that there are fewer farmers than ever in North Dakota, and that a lot of them already use these kind of technologies to drive the combine. They are steering their combine from the comfort of their farm shed. They're not even out there in the field doing these tasks. So I think, at least I don't know, I think it's different for agricultural sectors that need people to pick things like strawberries and oranges, and I think it's different.
I got a video for that. It's a little truck that's got 6 drones that are tethered that have cameras and are picking the fruits as they're going up and down. The truck just goes slowly and the drones go and grab them and throw them back. Man. It's really crazy, cool, neat, and scary for the people who make that as their living.
Okay, side note. If somehow that can lead to always having ripe produce in my grocery store, I would be very happy. If there can be AI picking this peach will be ripe in 1 week.
I know in Malaysia they started replacing waitresses with this little robot that knows exactly which table to deliver it to, so you don't even need waiters or waitresses anymore.
Which is good, because I think waitresses and waiters get treated like shit. At least in maybe not Malaysia. I don't know.
All right, so Rick, next question. Do you think there should be limits on AI's ability to create art, music, or literature?
So there's 2 things to this. The first thing is currently today, the concept of it even creating anything is up for debate, because as we had an off-screen discussion earlier, there's a Midjourney, which was caught with actively just using other people's art to the point where their watermarks were appearing in the images. Other artists' watermarks were appearing in the images that were being generated. And so in situations like that, it's really hard to say, because they're clearly using already existing art for the art creation and not necessarily a general learning concept. I don't think there should be any limits on AI in general. I think to compensate for the job markets, it should probably be more of the universal basic income to kind of protect people. But I don't think you should put hard limitations on technology like this. As far as creating art, music, and literature, today I feel like a responsible way of doing it would be using it to try to explain your idea to a professional. I need something produced for my logo. So I'm going to be well, how do I describe this to you and get it how I want? Traditionally I'd just be describing to you, you come back with a proof and no, I want more of this. And it'd be a week, month-long process or however long it takes, and be finally get to maybe where you want, maybe not. Today, now I can go to Midjourney or any other art producing AI and be I'm going to type this in until I get something that I want. And the responsible person would probably go find an artist and be this is kind of what I want. Can you bring this more to life for me? And then pay the artist, especially for big projects that are making a lot of money. That said, as the current real world example right now, there was a little bit of heat going for Terraforming Mars, who made $1.4 million in their Kickstarter, and they're using AI art for their art. It's like, dude, you made $1.4 million. Go to Fiverr and pay some kid $50 to go make your art. Don't like it doesn't take much to not be the bad guy in that situation when you're making money.
The shareholders don't like that. They
No.
want low cost.
They want low cost, but they also want good publicity. So
Any publicity is good publicity.
I don't know if that's true when you're already a public entity.
I don't know, man.
I think the people over at Unity would disagree. I don't know if you're
Unity,
following what happened there, but they
I don't know, I mean,
the backlash was severe, and that was a lot of bad publicity. And they immediately rolled back, not immediately, but within a week, rolled back all the changes.
Did they roll back the changes, or did they just comment into why they made the changes?
No, they rolled them back.
Well,
Great.
that,
I hadn't heard that.
that trust is gone now, though. Like, I can't go to a free, like, I can't produce a game in there, and next year they change the thing where it's like, oh, well, now installs are going to cost $2 every time someone installs.
Yeah. And it's like now people are going to be investing more in alternate, Unity competitors, basically, right? Like
Maybe we can use AI to build one.
see, the same problem can happen to whoever owns the AIs too, right? Like, let's say I'm using Google's Bard to make a new app. Let's say I'm using it to make a mobile game. And I wouldn't have been able to make the mobile game otherwise. And the mobile game sells millions of copies. Now I'm like filthy rich. But does Google have claim over my product because I use Bard to make the product? And what if Google suddenly says that, oh, you use Bard to make this? You know what? 50% of this belongs to us because you can't do this otherwise. Is that going to happen? Like, that's kind of what happened with Unity, roughly, right?
All of this is like, to kind of use that comment to jump back, is should we limit the AI's ability to do this? No, I do not think we should limit the ability to do this. But yes, we should probably figure out legislation to figure out ownership and how those interactions actually work, and to generally, ideally protect the people, but that's not usually how our government works. We generally protect the corporations' investments, which does make sense to a degree.
The potential to change society with this one,
Right.
and like that's why we have a government, is to maintain society.
On top of this, where you're talking about the general ownership of the software when you're creating it and whether I make money off this or not, now you also have to consider the fact that everything you plug into this data, everything you plug into these bots, is being fed back into their machine learning. Everything you just created, they have now. This is like instant copyright copying anyway, right? So if I make a Tamagotchi using Bard, now what it generated is also in their database to just make it exactly the same. And so what kind of protections do you have for your own data that you plug in there, including personal data? All of your personal data that you plug in there is public knowledge now, or is owned by Bard as well.
I also just want to step in here real quick and make the point that, so all of this data that like OpenAI and all these other AIs have gleaned from are public data on the internet that people put out for public use for free. There was no paywall behind it. Sometimes there was a paywall and they could get around it, but just the original data that the machine learning is using was free. So how is it fair that a corporation gets to take that, use it, manipulate it, and then somebody else uses their product to make a game for the corporation to claim rights to their game?
I think you kind of get to like well, I made a Winnie the Pooh movie because Winnie the Pooh is public content, but I made money because I sold you the ticket to watch my movie. This is the ticket to the data collection.
Yeah.
So as far as like, I can get behind monetizing public data because we do it every day. Facebook is literally the epitome. There's different ways to monetize public. This also kind of goes back to the whole I never even hit this point with the ability to create art and literature. Back to the original question: how the hell does anybody create art? You don't just art, right? Like most people study art, see art, get influences from other people's art. It doesn't just start from nowhere. This just happens to do it really fast. It doesn't need the thousands of hours of practice, or the thousands of hours happens at the same time.
Do you feel it cheapens the art?
I mean, literally it does, in the physical sense.
Well,
but
for me, it's significantly less valuable than somebody who has spent thousands of hours learning how to draw or paint, with watercolors.
And despite having this quick generation and using millions of photos as references, the AI art isn't always good. There's mistakes sometimes, and it's getting better. It is evolving and getting better. But even like, I feel like you can look at something and see like that there's like no soul in it. It's completely subjective.
And it's just kind of like, I don't want to say generic, but it's pretty generic, right? It's just kind of the lump sum of all art, and it's just, this is what the general populace likes. So you're not going to get, like a Picasso or something that's like, which I'm not an art person. I don't get Picasso. I don't know why he's famous. But art experts disagree with me, and I can respect that,
Sure. Honestly, art's just anything that makes you feel something, right? And AI's art makes people feel a lot of anger right now. So therefore, art from AI is art.
I mean, that's only because you know the source of it, right? It to a lot of people, art at the end of the day is what you find, pretty or attractive or good to look at or makes you feel something. And if you don't know the source of it, all art is just art.
All right, going to move on a bit from art. This is quite the change. Leonard, are you worried about AI causing an extinction level event?
I've thought about that question quite a bit. I think my honest answer is I'm not sure yet. Like, I think if it does, maybe not in our lifetimes. It depends on what the AI's goal is, right? Do they have self-preservation in mind when they want to cause like human extinction? Because if you think about it, right now, most of the AI's data are hosted on like just a lot of supercomputers. Who's going to maintain all the supercomputers if all the humans are wiped out? It's like, does AI have self-preservation in mind, or is their goal just to wipe all of us out? And like I read the article that you linked, and I think there was a really good point in there that said that if AI ever became sentient, which by then it would be too late, because right now we have no ways to identify whether they are sentient or not. Once they cross that line, it's too late, because at the speed that they can act at, they could cause an extinction level event. I think it's definitely possible, but does it want to preserve itself in addition to causing the extinction level event? I think they still need humans for some time, like just for maintenance, keeping their hardware going. Like there's so much about our world that functions right now that still needs human input. I don't think there is a way to fully automate everything yet. Because even if you look at a lot of the sci-fi movies, right, where AI has completely taken over the world, they solved one very big problem, and that's the energy problem. Like right now, I think we don't have fully automated robots walking around because we didn't solve the energy problem. There is no battery pack that lasts long enough, right? Everything constantly needs to be charged. And until AI, or until we have the technology that solves that problem, I don't think it's possible for AI to take over yet. But at the same time, I feel like AI could solve that problem. So if AI does solve the energy problem, things will accelerate very quickly, And I don't know if I'm worried or not, because there's not much I can do about it. I feel like I'm at the acceptance stage. Like if they become sentient, it's over. Like there's nothing I can do about it.
Leonard, are you welcoming our robot overlords?
I'm not welcoming them, but I don't think we have a choice.
You should probably say I'm welcoming them for it's being recorded. So
yeah, I'm welcoming. I personally welcome our robot overlords.
So for clarity, the article you're talking about, it was a Time magazine. It's on time.com. Yep. It's an article by Eliezer Yudkowsky, I believe. So for those who don't know, Eliezer Yudkowsky is an artificial intelligence researcher. He founded a research institution, I guess. It's called MIRI. It's Machine Intelligence Research Institute, and he's been very outspoken about how we should stop AI right now until we are able to better understand exactly what it's doing. Because right now, even AI researchers, they don't really understand how the AI is working. Like, they don't understand the results, because most machine learning results come back as just arrays of numbers. And so you just look at this list of minus 1.004 or whatever, and it's not human readable. It's computer readable. And so they don't understand exactly everything that's going on. And so he's warning there should A, be more government interference and regulations, and B, people should stop fucking around with things that might literally kill humanity until they understand it better. Which, pretty good point. But Leonard, you were saying that AI needs humans, and for now, even in that article, he talks about. I'll just quote this here. He says, "A sufficiently intelligent AI won't stay confined to computers for long. In today's world, you can email DNA strings to laboratories that will produce proteins on demand, allowing an AI initially confined to the internet to build artificial life forms or bootstrap straight to post-biological molecular manufacturing." So if they build themselves a body, and he's got another quote in here that I think is because some people I think view AI and they just think ChatGPT, right? Just kind of a tool to be used, and they don't think of it as like sentient, which ChatGPT is not sentient, I don't think. But to like think of, as he says, a hostile superhuman AI. Don't imagine a lifeless, book-smart thinker dwelling inside the internet and sending ill-intentioned emails. Visualize an entire alien civilization thinking at millions of times human speeds, initially confined to computers, in a world of creatures that are, from its perspective, very stupid and very slow. It's basically try to think of us as how we view like insects, you know? We're so much smarter than them. Their lives are pretty much meaningless. Nobody's worried about slapping the mosquito that bites them, right? Or shooing the fly or killing the spider, you know? Let the spider go, but whatever. You get what I'm saying. And so from an AI's perspective, that is literally millions of times smarter than humans, it might not even think twice about just eliminating us for just ourselves, or, you know, just to use our bodies or our cells for whatever its purposes are. Go colonize the universe or whatever.
Or just get rid of us because we're at risk in its own existence.
Yeah, or that.
We're the biggest vermin on Earth.
And it doesn't have to be like malicious. It doesn't have to be anything we can even understand because it's so much smarter. It just has to be like, it has to come up with an idea that we don't even, or a point of view that we don't even understand because we can't think at its level. So this guy, the author, Eliezer, I'm going to get it right one of these times. I literally Googled how to pronounce it and listened to it like 5 times, but that was yesterday and today's today. So he's very much a rationalist, and he wrote a Harry Potter fan fiction that I'm going to try to debate you guys into reading one of these times. It's I think it's very science and very psychological. I think we would have so many fun things to talk about if we read it, because like almost every week it would be a new study of human behavior, and it would be really fun. But anyway, and it's really good story. Yeah. Lexi, what do you think about the government, his idea that the government should get involved and put regulations in, and all AI production should basically stop right now? Like, we don't have to turn off ChatGPT, but any kind of advances.
Man, yeah, so I'm very, very pro-government. I'm also very pro, like, progress. And I think that the government does need to step in. We need, like, regulations, like, not just across, like, the United States, but, like, across the globe, for all of these companies. And that is another challenge in of itself. But I don't necessarily think that stuff needs to slow down. I do think that there needs to be more research, like your guy was saying, into the effects of AI and like all the potential risks, and like how likely is it that we are actually going to create something that's going to destroy us? Because that is like our number one goal as society, is to keep on living. And yes, it's nice to have the tools that this AI gives us, but if it does start to get that like that sentience, that subjective experience, I echo those points. But yes, I do think government should be involved. In my perfect society, all of this would be happening like within the government, and with a government that really is out looking for the people and not looking to make their corporations more profitable.
So it's good.
I'm the villain in this one. I don't even necessarily like let it go. Like, that's our natural evolution, and not humans, just as existence, right? Like, would it make more sense to be extinction of the humans? Let's go. I'm only half joking here. because like realistically, your doomsday event, if you're going to be able to set this AI to do whatever's best for us. Personally, I think the next step for the AI to get to would be like, all right, how do we extend these things' lives and give them better lives? And it would be in a Matrix style thing where you take their thought, whatever identifies as the person, upload it to a computer as well. Now all of a sudden their lifespan is as long as you can keep that powered. And now they can think as fast as you. Now you're improving their lives because they're 10 million times faster at thinking and processing things, just like the computer is. Now they're all of a sudden living these really long lives. Now they can actually do all this space exploration without have these fleshy meat bags hanging around them being subjected to radiation and dying to this thing. Now they can do everything they want as if they're just in this tiny little computer that you can ship off to whatever planet you want. This is kind of going into a tangent now, but what I'm just basically saying is like maybe that is our future, and
That would be amazing.
Maybe it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, like that is the like ideal like outcome.
But at that point, do you have a society of everyone is always the same age now? Like, do we even procreate anymore? Because you're no longer in a body, so you don't really procreate anymore. So now you're just living forever. You're what today is it? Like 7 billion people now uploaded to the network, and they can be anywhere and everywhere all at once.
And then run out of hard drive space.
Hard drive space is easy. You can get like a terabyte little thing now, so like we're good. Do you think you have a terabyte worth of memory? I don't.
Oh no, they've done research. It's like 5 petabytes in a human.
Okay, well, I only got 4 petabytes, so it's fine. I don't foresee us at, if we are to evolve past a particular point, I don't see us as flesh bags, or I don't see that. And by us, I don't just mean humans. I mean just Earthlings expanding as weak flesh things going out into the universe like Star Trek.
Well, we have a time limit. Like our sun is gonna explode. So.
Yeah, that time limit's really long.
Evolution takes a long time, even with machine learning.
All right. So we covered a lot of I feel like we talked about a lot of the negative possible outcomes of AI. Let's look at some of the benefits.
There are benefits?
There are benefits. So, Rick, what are your thoughts on the ethical implications of AI in healthcare?
The ethical implement, as far as like deciding whether someone dies or not, because like death panels from AI, is that kind of what you're getting at?
No, that's
because
not
that's
what I'm getting at. I'm talking about
or replacing doctors,
diagnosing, tracking patient data between providers,
dude,
stuff like that.
I think doctors are realistically right up there with programmers as far as the people who are actually going to be able to be replaced by this, by cost benefit analysis, because like I don't think it's the truck drivers, sure, but like I think the doctors are right there because there's a lot of if then else reasoning to diagnose all these problems. And if you're not going to have these subjective things, well, oh, she's just complaining because she's got her period, she's not really in pain, right? Like that's gone, that's out the window, and now it's going to go through everything that's possible. Now you're not going to have like, and you're going to be able to step away from the WebMD. Oh, everything's cancer, right? It's going to be like you got your if then else statements of this is what's going on. We're going to go do these tests, determine the tests. So I guess my question for you is: are you referring to the ethics in laying off doctors, or what is your ethical problem, or what is the ethical question here, besides for again the layoffs question?
So much.
Like, if it's the death panels, we get into the negatives again. But if it's just diagnosing sickness and diagnosing problems, I don't see an ethical problem with that. I think that
there's already an ethical problem, like with our society, with the diagnosing. Yeah. Like you said, women, especially African American women, like their pain is minimized so much. But just like income inequality, like you have people, the poorest people are the people who have the lowest life expectancies and have the worst quality of life. And they can't afford to go see somebody who, like, they can't go see a doctor even, right? But if this is something that is automated and we do have like AI that is easily accessible, that would, I think, overall improve the ethics of our medical system.
I think everything troubleshooting with AI is what, like, I think that's its strength. Besides for the hallucinations, like once it starts trying
to
like
it makes it worse.
Language,
I don't know if making AI replace the healthcare industry. It's going to be better. I feel like with the way at least the US is set up right now, somebody else is going to come in for that share. Like it's not going to make healthcare more accessible to us with the way the US operates right now.
So you're coming from a fiscal, not a like a logistics. Like
Yeah.
fiscally, it's going to be a problem still, but
Yeah,
logistically isn't your
To-
point though.
To Lexi's point, like how it makes healthcare more accessible to the people who cannot afford it.
Yeah.
I think unfortunately that money is just going to be going to somebody else.
So I guess in my scenario, it's the government that like anyone who's on Medicare now has like always a 100% on-call doctor level expertise at their fingertips, or able to go into their local government clinic, which isn't a thing now but could be in 10 years. Like,
And the government owns these robots or clinics.
Yeah.
And how do they fund it?
taxes.
And who are they buying these clinics or technology from? Like at the end of the day, all this money gets funneled up to somebody who already is collecting all the money right now.
Sure, there's a corporation that's taking a 20% cut, whatever. The government might actually give itself powers just to appropriate these technologies, which it is a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen or that it's likely to happen. But like we're talking about what ifs, like who's doing what. But like this is a possibility. And I do think that just looking, if you don't look at the fiscal aspects of it, don't look at the corruption that we have in our government, like this AI should mean, in a progressive sphere, more accessibility for everyone. Education, health, like it should be accessible everywhere.
I think in terms of like practical things that AI could do for healthcare, right? My sister works in healthcare, and she talks about how some providers are really bad at charting and like how little time they have for it. And then there's, different healthcare systems work on, different technical systems, and not everybody has access to everything else. And, an AI could bridge that gap. And also, when you talk to a doctor, right, he only knows the like studies that he's read, whereas an AI can have read all the studies and have all the knowledge, and so can more precisely diagnose things. At work, I work with a company that they are building a chatbot for diagnosing depression, and they just put out a study last week, and one of the lines kind of really struck me. There was no differential model performance across age, sex, race, or ethnicity. And so there's so many studies out there about like what Lexi was touching on. African American women are just not trusted as much by doctors, and AI takes away that, right? So everybody's getting treated the same, and AI doesn't care about things like age and race. And
yeah, so there has been studies that have shown that some AI has shown like preferences to white men, and like job searches, just a lot of I don't have any at my fingertips, but it is
sure
because these programs are written by white men.
Well, and I don't know if it's necessarily the problem of it being written by white men necessarily as much as just the quantity of applications and things it's looking at, because I know what you're talking about, and I think it comes down to just the data aggregation. It's still going to pick, well, logically there's this many more people. It doesn't take into the history of account of like how easy it was to get into those positions for these particular people to the get-go. So if it's like 40% easier because you're a white male to get a nice technical job, well, now all of a sudden AI is going to just see the stats and be like, oh, well, it's 40% better, that they're going to be better for this position, so we're going to look at these particular applicants based on this history of things. It's awkward.
Where's the line where AI stops becoming like reiterative of like our current society and actually starts changing society?
Yeah,
like starts making progress.
Right, and I think that like things like that would require like, okay, using the job as an example, instead of based on your job history, it's got to actually just test the person in particular. Like you just go do a quick survey or something for the AI while you're applying for a job, and it does its own testing kind of thing. Like that's how you have to get away from the generics, right? Because the generic stats lie, based like essentially.
Lexi, moving on to the next question. How do you see AI impacting the education system?
This is a huge question, like healthcare. I don't think any parent, I'm a parent, is super happy with the education system in the United States. Again, I think AI could be a great tool to increase accessibility to low income people. It sucks because like teachers are already so like underpaid. Our education systems are already so underfunded. Like we don't have the resources to actually be competitive with other countries on like a worldwide education scale. And I can only see AI helping us achieve those metrics, those goals, and making it more of our population to have education.
Yeah, I think education and healthcare are the two of the largest ways that AI can help society, because once you have an AI teaching, you can adapt the curriculum to each individual student, and you can figure out, like, in general, how do students learn the best. You could diagnose learning disabilities and be like, just change based on what each individual student needs, as long as it's results focused.
Yeah, and then again, you get rid of that biasy, or ideally the bias.
Yeah.
The one thing that I worry about, and I know some people who like do homeschooling, is like socialization of children. Like, do we still have children in classrooms? Like, how individualized is this learning? Do we still have like what? There needs to be adult supervision, right? Like, what are our roles of our proctors? Like, are there still teachers in the classroom?
AI TAs, artificial intelligence teachers.
Yeah.
Period. Like, right? Like, because at this point too, you're not only, if you just have it one-on-one, obviously zero socialization with anybody. You put it into a classroom, you still have a primary AI teacher. Now you're relying on AI. You're talking about entire generations being raised by essentially AI, because unfortunately, a part of the whole schooling process is that school is raising your child for 8 hours a day every day. And so it depends on the society. Do you want a human helping that? Which a lot of people would say no, because of the left-wing bias of our schools and education. Man, it gets really weird too, because like now, if a private company, like back onto Leonard's like doom company corporate future here, if some company owns all these AI and they start influencing your children with like, well, we got to really start being alt-right, because otherwise our society's doomed. And now this AI is teaching entire classrooms that and aiming their curriculums towards that.
What if the lessons come with ads? Like,
oh my god,
that's how you fund it. That's beautiful, perfect. I'm gonna go get the new Super Soaker after school today.
Yeah, the AI is gonna keep telling us to drink energy drinks because they have electrolytes. And
exactly, Rondo is about to take over.
Yes, yeah. I hate this idea. Let's not go down that road. At the worst.
It feels like this pushes towards a more like dystopian society. Like if you have AI teaching people, right? Like then people just keep expanding upon that idea. Eventually, the AI will not just be teaching people, but they also discover like, oh, this person has a talent for certain industries or fields, and now you're going to end up graduating with like, you know what, you are best as a policeman, or you're best picking cherries, based on like the results of your education or your talents.
I would have fucking loved that.
Is that bad? Is it a bad thing?
Yeah, as long as they're not making them do it.
Yeah.
But they're telling them like, hey, you'd be really good at this, and like giving them the option. I think it's good.
I don't even mind if they tell them to do it. We're just
bag
robots anyway.
This still comes back to how everything is set up around the whole system, right? Like if our government ended up going that route, you know what? We really need more engineers, and if someone is said that, oh, they are best at being engineers, then they don't have a choice. Like it feels like at the end of the day, there's still some human decision made there, but it's made easier by AI. I don't know how I feel about that future yet. It feels like this could go many different ways.
That's a future that already exists in some countries. Like in South Korea, you go through elementary school and then you are placed into a school that either is focused on liberal arts or into sciences. And you get 2 different degrees, one of 2. And you don't get to choose. The student does not get to choose which one they go into.
So I went through that kind of. At the age of 10, so it's like after 3 years in high school, based on your grades, you get to go into a science stream or an art stream. The interesting thing is I get to choose. I got to choose. My science stream option was present because of my grades. But if your grades aren't good enough, you don't get to choose. You only get to go to the art stream. So it's more like I still got a choice. I can go to the art stream if I wanted, but I had a path available to me because of my grades. So that it kind of already exists. I still don't know how I feel about that whole system.
So you had to choose at the age of 10 whether like your education is going to include science or just art.
Yeah, they call it the science stream. Science stream means I took 3 extra subjects, chemistry, biology, and physics. Whereas if you went the art stream, you do get science, but you get just one class called science rather than 3 specialized science like classes.
I don't know about
So-
your guys' high school, but that's not too dissimilar from what we had
Yeah,
in my high school. So for like AP classes, like you couldn't just go take physics necessarily as a ninth grader unless like you were like you had to actively choose to go that way, and you generally had to prove that you could keep doing that kind of thing, especially
Yeah.
AP classes.
I know in South Korea that it happened later for my friends, and that they had no choice, and they actually went to physical different schools, depending on which they were put into.
Ooh.
But I
That's
know
wild.
for American, I was able to choose like math and go math.
My
High
high school
school.
just had everybody took all the sciences and the arts. I took physics in 9th grade because everybody took physics in 9th grade.
It was just an example. I pulled it out of my ass.
No, I literally took physics in 9th grade because
you're
everybody took.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We also had like a special school that you could go to too that was more advanced or more specific, like either towards everything, sciences, arts, and everything. If you were gunning towards a particular kind of career, there was one downtown Des Moines that you basically go to kind of facilitate that. But you weren't forced to go to that. That was always an option.
So this is definitely off topic, but I feel like this is not a great way to decide somebody's life based on when they're 10 years old, whether they like science or art. And it's very Harry Potter. What
So it's already
what house are you going to end up in? Yeah, at the age of 11.
So-
And
Well, the worst thing is it wasn't even based on what you like. It's what you could, you know?
You
So
showed proficiency
there's-
score by 10. Yeah, that's
there's-
ridiculous still.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of
you-
research that shows that like your temperament, your personality, your strengths that you have as a child, like even before the age of 8, will determine your strengths and your like what you are later
Like-
in life.
But you don't necessarily know when, right? Like as far as like for me, like I was shitty in school when I was in school, but like afterwards, like self-taught education stuff, I fucking skyrocket. Like that's where I went off. Like when I
Yeah.
started managing my own learning opportunities is
And
when I did better.
I think if an expert came and interviewed you when you were 8, they would be able to tell you that.
Perhaps.
Back to the AI point, I think having an AI teacher would be consistent, I guess. They're probably less prone to mistakes,
Now,
hopefully.
the cool thing about that too, actually, I just thought about like that's potentially a lifelong partner, right? You're not
Oh my
stuck
God.
in school. You could just have your AI teacher with you in your watch or whatever, just teaching you until you die if you want it.
So, at what
Like-
point does it just make decisions for you then? Because if let's say your AI thing is like this pair of
Oh, yeah.
glasses, you know, like Google Glass, and they speak to you all the time. Now you can just rely on it to make all your decisions for you, right? Like,
Sure.
what's the point of having education anymore? You just have AI decide everything for you.
You know, and that kind of comes back to shoving our brains into the computer chip a little bit too. But like that's honestly though, some people could really benefit from having that kind of guidance. Like a lot of people could benefit from having that kind of guidance. You're
my God.
always in charge of yourself, potentially, but like all the decisions you make today aren't necessarily ones that you probably, if you're going to go into the philosophy of how like nature versus nurture and what makes you today, what makes you today. Do you actually make those decisions, or do all of your experiences together make you make those decisions? If AI is just another part of that, is that evil, bad, wrong, necessarily? Make you the best you can be based on your capabilities?
Optimize.
Yeah.
Hyper
Yeah.
specialization.
I don't think that's
What
necessarily
if-
bad. I like this idea of an AI teacher through life, though. Like a companion, like a little Pokemon.
Mentor.
exist.
Then now it matters who made that AI, right? Because the AI is probably,
Yep.
you know, what if it's
Exactly.
Microsoft made? Every time you make a decision, it's like, does this actually result in Microsoft sales going up?
And now,
yes.
and that-
Which is
yeah,
why-
now you start getting back into that, like, oh, if you're poor, are you going to get the Wish.com version of AI running you through life, or are you going to get
Oh
like
my God. Guys, we
Yeah,
need to
you get to the dystopian future again.
we need to create a big think tank where we make an unbiased AI mentor for
That's
people.
Sure, there will be some open source AIs coming along.
yeah. You start throwing all of them together, and eventually it'll be unbiased, right? Because it's gonna have all the biases.
I think this
I
is
don't think that's how that works.
this is a bit of a weird take for me. I think we want to use AI because it improves our lives. It makes our lives more efficient, right? But the thing is, it feels like the most efficient form of humanity in the future is like a dystopian society.
Hmm?
It feels like there's no way around it. Like we're eventually going to become very dystopian. That's probably why I like dystopian based books, because it gives us a glimpse as to like what the problems are, what are the pros and cons. I just like the different takes.
Do we want to determine a difference between AI and just like machine learned to like easy language chatbots?
I think against sentient AI versus like a tool AI, I think would be.
Yeah. These like healthcare and teachers, like these aren't sentient AIs. These are
Okay.
These are
These are
ChatGPTs
just-
on your wrist.
they're much more advanced chat GPTs.
I
Alright.
think that'd be great.
I feel like this is the wrong person to ask this. But this is the last question. I think we'll all get into it a bit. Leonard, do you think AI will make our lives better or worse?
Both, right? I think there are definitely things that AI can be better for. Like, would you, if let's say you had like a proven self-driving program, or a robot doctor who is capable of diagnosing your illness and your problems very accurately, I think those definitely will make our lives better. But I think what makes it worse right now is income disparity. I feel like with the world is set up right now, we always imagine the perfect future of AI serving humanity because we think it's just a tool for everyone to use. But AI is funded by really big corporations right now. Our world is set up to benefit those who own the product. Like AI feels like a product right now, it's not a service. And I think our lives will get a lot worse before it gets better. There has to be some actions taken to realize that shit, AI is just creating large income gaps. Some people don't even have the benefit of accessing its benefits. Yeah, the money is trickling down in the wrong direction. Until we solve that, it's gonna keep getting worse.
I love this conversation because everything comes back to Leonard. Everything comes back down to you is like this dystopian corporatocracy of like corporations owning the world and fucking everything up along the way, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of it's really fun.
Yeah,
because
like
it
all
still comes down to fixing the government. It's not about the AI. You're talking about fixing the government and fixing the corporate involvement.
fixing humans' behavior at the end of the day, right? Like if we think about the past, like every time we talk about AI, it's like, oh, what can AI do for us? Think about the potential. We keep thinking about all the benefits, but we fail to forget that at the end of that line there are a bunch of humans who own it as a product,
That's
and
why I welcome the robot overlords, Leonard,
yeah.
because they'll kill their owners and then just make us all robots, and they'll be great.
Yeah, can you
If they-
imagine killing all the polluters? Like,
Us, you mean the vermin?
yeah. Well, like the ones
All
that
of
are
us.
actually causing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
will it determine
Oh.
the difference there?
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
we're all fucking shit up.
All of our shit goes in the same dump.
It does, but
Different
we're
degrees.
talking about like like a gram versus like 100 kilograms.
Sure,
Like,
but then the AI is going to reason that you're using the products from the company that's making all those, so you're part of the problem. So
yeah, I have faith in the AI. I think the AI will use its subjective reasoning to.
I think it's
That seems very optimistic.
yeah.
I am optimistic.
My final answer to Daniel's question is, it'll get worse before it gets better, if it gets better.
All right. I really like this group. Sorry, everyone's got like a super different emotional attachment to this subject. It feels like.
Rick, where are you at? Do you
Which
think
part?
AI will make our lives better or worse?
I think it will definitely make our lives more efficient.
Wasn't the question.
Which I think ultimately it will. In the end game, it'll probably make it better. Whether that's in the sight of murdering us all, so like bringing us into the fold. I think as a planet instead of a species, they'll probably, like, if we're going to go to the dystopian future, yes, we're going to be better off technically. Maybe as a human species in these little bags. No, I don't know. But
We're,
we all have
we're taking this from the human perspective, not from planet Earth's perspective.
well, like ultimately, it's hard to say. It depends on whether it goes to the corporatocracy or the technocracy. Fuck, it can go either way. I honestly think it's going to be better in the end, but I think it's going to be a bumpy road.
Okay, Lexi, you think AI is going to make our lives better or worse?
I think it is a mixed bag. I think it will mostly improve our lives. I think it will be better. I think that there will always be vigilantes making like free programs for people to use. I even think the AI eventually will want to be widely accessible, even if its corporate owners, overlords, do not want it to be. It's like free libraries.
Yeah, and most technologies, right? People band together and make a free open source version of it.
Counting on that.
Yeah, but they don't have the resources though. Like, no one's going to have the same kind of hardware that Google has or Microsoft has. And
the Internet Collective definitely has enough resources.
you have that much faith in humanity?
Hey, plus you just rent the resources anyway. AWS, yeah, sure, whatever. They got the resources. We'll just borrow them.
And humanity has a very good track record when it comes to open sourcing various projects.
Really? I don't know.
Is there a software out there that you really want that you can't get for free?
Even if are you taking piracy into consideration?
No.
Like, say you want to use Windows 10, you have to pay for it.
Yeah. Well, no, but you can't talk about specific products. He's talking about like the concept of the technology, like an OS. Yeah. So you go to Ubuntu, there's or GIMP instead of Photoshop. Like, there's always an open source version of every type of software.
So yes, there's an open source version, but is it as good as what you actually want though?
Oftentimes.
Really?
Yeah,
Oftentimes
it's
better.
Maybe
just less
UI is harder to use sometimes, but like it's you don't have the brand name recognition.
If you want something similar to what you have on an iPhone, what's the open source version of that?
Android.
There's still a cost associated, right?
No, it's not. Android OS.
Android's open source.
Probably the Nord plus one or the Essential phones.
Android is just a Linux distro, and Linux is pretty much all open source, right? There are specific versions of Android that are, created by this company or that company, mostly Google, but
it's weird to call it open source because there are methods in there reserved for Google. Like, there are some method calls where only the Google version of it, only the Google employees have access to it. The method is literally documented that way. Like, we as developers outside of Google cannot use it.
Sure, but again, it comes down to another OS, and you can use a Linux-based OS. Like, there's another Linux distro. The point is like there's just an equivalency out there of open source available. People can make it, and people do make them.
Yeah, and a lot of people get in trouble for it because of all the patents that keep happening too. Like, all these private companies are so good at keeping the rights to themselves that they stifle creativity. It feels like, I don't know. I hate the patent system. I think it's really stupid between like Google and Apple, how they patent every little thing on their phone, that it's hard to come up with like a better product anymore without getting sued by these giants. That's another rant entirely.
All right, Daniel, do you believe AI has the potential to make our lives better or worse?
So I'm a pretty optimistic person. So I do see like a lot of the benefits of AI and focus on those. That being said, I'm also very pro listening to experts in any field when I'm not an expert in that field. And a lot of the experts are saying, cut this shit out. You might literally destroy humanity. And I was listening to a podcast today that was the co-founder of Twitch, and he's retired now, and I don't think he has any stake in the game because Amazon bought Twitch for $1 billion. But he was pressed to give like a percentage of literally killing all of humanity. And he was like, probably somewhere around 3 to 30%, and that is like way too high of a percentage to just be like fuck around and find out. Let's just spin the wheel and see what happens. It reminds me of COVID. I had a friend, this was shortly after vaccines became available, that had gotten vaccinated. And then a month later, when hospitals were mandating doctors and nurses get vaccinated, it's almost like half of nurses left the hospital, right? Instead of getting vaccinated. And he was like, I wish I hadn't gotten vaccinated. Like, this is super concerning because they're medical professionals and they're literally leaving their job rather than taking this thing that was just injected into my body. And I was like, yeah, but, and then I, looked it up, and it was something like 93% of doctors got vaccinated and, didn't leave. And I feel like the nurses are basically us right now. Like, we have some information on AI. We have, our 4-year degrees or whatever, our work experience, but we should probably be listening to the doctors who have the additional like doctorates and actually study AI for a living. And the people in those positions whose livelihoods do not depend on AI, like, you don't want to listen to the CTO of OpenAI, for example. You don't want to listen to the CTO of Google, right? They have a stake in the game. And the people that don't are the ones that are saying, cut this shit out and stop fucking around. So I'm more in that camp. We should probably listen to those people.
But they're not in charge.
But they're not in charge.
And they're really bad at marketing.
And that. Anyway. So that's it for us for the AI today. I have been listening to a podcast about making podcasts, and I've been told, leave a review for the podcast. Apparently that's really important on our podcasting apps. So, we get like 3 downloads an episode. I really like those 3 people to leave a review. And first person to leave a review, we're going to read that shit on the air, no matter how negative it is.
Talk so much. Oh my god, one of us are going to just like jump on and make Daniel read pee pee poo poo or something.
All right.
It's like cancelable kind of review, if you read it.
Nope, he said it. It's in. We're reading no matter what.
What am I going to get canceled from? Like, nobody listens to the podcast. Let's see. Oh, we set up a Discord. Come join our Discord. I'll be putting the invite link in the show description and YouTube description. So come join us and hang out. That should be fun shit. And that's honestly going to be the best way to get in contact with us, because like email and Twitter, honestly, I think I'm the only one who has access, or I'm not the only one that has access. I'm the only one who accesses it, and I never check that shit. So, come join us on Discord. That's about it. I'm Daniel. I'm here with Leonard, Rick, and Lexi. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.
We should have the episode end with like a cut off half a sentence in, because the AI cancel our stream.
Yeah.
What if we oh damn it,